Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got Rich R. What's up, Rich? How you doing?
I'm living the dream, man.
Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you giving me the time as well. Yeah, I'm looking at a storm blowing in from the west here out the windows, and skies are looking pretty crazy right now. But
what state are you in?
Won't be disconnected by anything.
Oh man, they got tornadoes out there,
Illinois.
right? Yeah, Tornado City.
I've heard. Yeah, we're in Woodstock. That's where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
You did the podcast with Wayne. Wayne's house was actually the piano teacher's house in Groundhog Day.
Oh, really? He didn't tell me that.
Actually used his house for that. So.
Yeah, he didn't tell me that.
I think he was having fun.
How did you get introduced to this motorcycle club life?
Well, I was in the biker world, and I'd actually had a bike wreck in April 23rd, 1982. Compound fracture to left tibia. Apparently, the bone's not supposed to be sticking out of your leg. And I was on crutches for a while, most of that summer, and I ran into a friend of mine, Jennifer, who had three brothers I hung out with, Alex, Minio, and Chris, and she was with her new boyfriend, and he had just made patch. So when I met them, she was sewing on. We went out to a bar, but she was going to sew his patch onto his colors for him, and he needed somebody to rent a room in his house with him. And I said, hey man, I need a place. So I moved in with them up in Antioch, Illinois, right just south of the Wisconsin border, right by the chain of lake, where the chain went underneath Route 173, and he introduced me to the club. You know, it was
the Death Marauders, right?
Kind of like I wasn't riding it. Death Marauders. I wasn't riding at the time because my bike was smashed up and my leg was in a cast. But I started hanging around, you know, as I was recovering from this bike accident, and the bike I crashed up was a 650 Yamaha.
How did the bike accident transpire?
It probably had something to do with the large quantity of alcohol that I had consumed. To tell you the truth.
That's usually a problem.
It's probably not a real good idea, but, you know, I drank all night and it was early in the morning, and it's a little foggy as far as how it happened. So you'd think I'd have been smart enough not to drink and ride after that, but I did plenty of both, you know, at the same time. Quite a while until I was sober.
You start living with this guy, and he's already a patch member, right?
Yeah, he had just made patch. His name, we called him Empty.
That was his nickname?
Nickname was Empty.
What was that reason for?
Apparently, when he met the guys in the club, they were trying to help him get his Sportster started. And they kept asking, you got gas, right? He said, yeah, I got plenty of gas. And he didn't. So they're trying to get the bike started, and the whole thing wouldn't start because he doesn't have any gasoline. Mm-hmm. So that was his nickname, was Empty. So he introduced me to the club, and he wasn't my sponsor. My sponsor was a guy we called Scumbag.
Sounds like a great fella.
Scumbag he was cool, man, but he's unique, and he's probably not what you're thinking. I mean, he was like one of the cleanest guys you'd want to meet. I mean, his pants, his blue jeans had creases. I mean, who the hell puts creases in their blue jeans? All right. Mm-hmm. So the way he got his nickname is he was riding down the road next to a guy with the Night Sinners, and a guy they called Stupid. And they were doing road construction, and he wasn't paying attention, and he flew off. There was like a 4-foot drop, and he flew off the end of the road and landed in like a pile of gravel. He didn't get hurt, didn't hurt the bike or anything. But Stupid rolls back and looks at him and says, "You scumbag," or something, and there you go, man. That's his nickname.
It's just stuck, right?
You know?
So how long
when you do stupid stuff, that often turns out to be your nickname, But
how long are you hanging out with these guys before you're like, I want to prospect?
Well, I was living with Empty probably for a couple months when I met Scumbag one day. And Scumbag started talking to me about, you should join the club. Scumbag was like our PR guy, man. He's sponsored more guys in the club than anybody. So I showed some interest, and they had a meeting out in Waukegan, about 25 miles east of where we were living, and I was invited to come along on a meeting night on a Friday. But when we got to a bar first, and I couldn't leave, I couldn't come with them from the bar. I had to stay at the bar.
Yeah.
Scumbag would go to the meeting and tell them that there's a guy back at the bar who's interested in joining. And, then that was when they agreed to let me start prospecting. Well, they agreed to consider me. They had to meet me a little bit first before that. What was funny is at the bar, I was left there with the old ladies. All the old ladies that were from the club. And there was this one, I don't remember her name. She was tall, just gorgeous, hot body and everything. And she starts hanging on me, and it's like, all right, this is not a good idea. There's a brother over there, and his old lady's hanging on me. And then she comes up to me and she says, how long do you think they're going to be? I said, well, I don't know. Well, could you give them a call? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a tag along, and I'm going to call up the club at their meeting and ask them, how long are you guys going to be? That's going to go over real well.
I'm with your old lady, yeah. How long you gonna be? I'm with your old lady.
Well, I mean, just making that phone call, that would have been the end of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Who the hell is this guy calling us up and asking when the hell we're going to be done? So I was smart enough to tell her, well, if you're that interested, I'd suggest you give him a call because I ain't gonna. I think she was trying to get me in a trick bag, that's all, testing me or whatever. I don't know. But so then I started prospecting after that.
What was your prospect period like?
Mine was murder. This is one thing I would recommend to anybody. If you're going to prospect, don't live with a brother. And most prospects, you're prospecting, when you're prospecting, it's like I kept a lighter in my hand all the time. Somebody brings a cigarette up to their mouth, and I got that thing lit like that because I want these guys to be pleased with me and move me along as quickly as possible. So I'm trying to do a good job. And we used to get a secrets box. Remember secrets, throat lozenges?
Yep.
They came in a metal box.
Yeah.
Well, you put a needle, thread, some aspirin, Tylenol, a rubber or two, stuff like that. Anything somebody's liable to say, hey, man, hey, prospect, get me this.
A cigarette.
Pardon me?
A cigarette, right?
Yeah. For a while there, I would, this one guy, Tommy, great guy. Tommy used to do a lot of speed. And but the club took a vote that you were not allowed to ask a prospect to get drugs for you. Well, I made a point of just having it for him. So if any time he wanted it, he didn't have to ask me. I just gave it to him. But living with the prospect, it's like if you don't live with the club member, rather, when you go home, you're off. You kick back, you relax. You're not on duty anymore. But when you live with a guy in the club, I got away when I went to work. When I came home from work, I was prospecting like nonstop. If I wasn't working or sleeping, I was a prospect.
Man.
So
I've heard stories about prospects living with full patch members and them end up not making it. And they steal all his stuff and kicked him out of the house. Took all his shit, his motorcycle, everything.
Yeah, Empty and I got along pretty well, so we didn't have any problems. He had a 8-foot. I don't like snakes, man. And I decided I didn't like snakes anymore after I was living with him. He had an 8-foot python that was in a glass aquarium up on a table right next to the sofa. And I think this was after I prospected, whatever. But I was sitting there one evening, and I'm right next to the dresser, and the dresser's up about at my shoulder height. So it's just my head sticking up above the dresser if you were looking from the side. And I kept hearing this tapping noise, just soft. But I'd look over, and the snake's just sitting there. And about the 5th time I heard it, I looked fast enough. I caught the snake. The snake was striking at my head and hitting the glass. And I decided right then, screw snakes, man. You can have your snakes. I don't have any use for them. So, the other thing with prospecting is when they're having a meeting, you don't go inside. And the other kind of hard part of my prospect period is I did it in winter. So you stand outside. You're in somebody's house and you're standing outside. You do not sit in your car and get warm. You stand outside in case somebody comes out from the meeting and says, hey, prospect, we need this, go get this. And you're standing there waiting for it. And so basically you're standing there just trying to stay warm because it's, sometimes it's cold as hell. But, they kept you busy. You go to a party and they'd have the grease pig thing, where you're trying to catch the grease pig, and they have for the prospects, man. You'd be competing with prospects from other clubs. So as a prospect, you get the Illinois and the MC, and you put a big P on your back. But there's no top rocker because they're not willing to admit that you're with them yet. They got to see you around a little bit enough before you get that top rocker and you move up to probate.
Did anyone test you physically? Any fights when you were a prospect?
Nobody challenged me to a fight in the club, but there were situations out in the bars and stuff.
Can you walk me through one?
Pardon me?
Can you walk me through a situation?
Oh, geez. We were at a bar out by, I don't remember I don't think I was a prospect at this time, but we were at a bar out by Great Lakes Naval Base. And Scumbag, he played a lot of hockey, and it was pretty easy to tell because he was missing some teeth. And he was always getting into fights. So we were in this bar right across the street from Great Lakes Naval Base, just about. And all of a sudden, Scumbag's hollering, and we're next thing you know, we're going at it. I don't know. You're duking.
Melee, right?
Yeah, just a bunch of people going at it. And
now, how long was your prospect period for?
I have to think about it because I made patch in time for road day. So prospect and probate was pretty much throughout the entire winter. So I think I started in like early October and probably made patch in March or something like that.
So way less than a year.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's it like when you get your patch?